decision as well. Well, David, let's move on then to Scotland and the COVID inquiry.
Yeah, so the Scottish Covid Enquiry has kind of started. So we have here an introduction. The inquiry will establish facts, identify lessons to be learned, and make recommendations to Scottish ministers so we are better prepared in future. And on the 28th of August, they had their first preliminary hearing to explain how the inquiry would actually proceed. On the next slide, we see that they're tweeting out that they've launched our listening project. Let's Be Heard. We're inviting public to share their experiences of the pandemic and any lessons they believe should be learned. We'll find out in a moment whether anything's excluded from the listening project and not being listened to at all. The BBC here is reporting that COVID, that families of care home relatives are demanding an apology over the care home ban. Alison Leach here says we were treated differently to staff, so excluded from seeing the relatives. Hopefully, she says, this is never allowed to happen again. And then the Times is reporting the Scottish Covid Enquiry won't question any politicians into 2025, by which case, presumably, they're expecting everyone will have forgotten all about this or will be on to the next problem, focusing all of the media attention. So this takes us to the Scottish Vaccine Injured Group. They've managed to win core participation status at the inquiry and attended that first meeting. They had 3 seats to attend the first meeting. And we have a short video here of them interacting with the media outside the venue, which is Murrayfield Stadium, after the initial meeting of the inquiry.
So we've only got 3 seats today. As I said, we need help and support. The press were all over that there. The press were absolutely all over that there. But us, the vaccine, didn't want to talk to us. Just goes to show you. Hi there, you guys watch the BBC?
Yes.
Do you want to get a photo of Alex Mitchell? The man,
Oh, yeah.
he's been affected by the vaccine.
We could do, is he going to be at the conference later?
We're at the conference just now, he's right there. Can you not take a video
Well,
of him
we
just now?
could do it right now, but I'm just thinking all our shots are people outside in the concourse, which just looks very samey.
But everybody's insane. We're all in this
Has
together.
my colleague just done this as well?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but...
Yeah, well, we could do it. He just come in, turn around, come back.
Okay. He's going to take a photo.
He's away.
Alex! Come! Well, he's away. What is he taking his camera away for there? Excuse me, mate. We're in the group. Do you know what thing he is, no?
No, at the moment we're actually trying to figure out
And we're very pleased to be joined by John Watt, who made that video, to talk about the press response you saw there and about the COVID inquiry and how it's going. And John, I want to welcome you to UK Column. And if you could start off by explaining the sort of response you were getting from the mainstream media.
Well, I think the video pretty much explains itself there, David, to be honest. Thanks for having me on, by the way. Yeah, I mean, we got there, and to give you just a bit of context regarding this inquiry as well, David, we had 6 days notice to try and get into that inquiry. We didn't realise that there was an inquiry and the vaccine injured could get into it. We had to phone up about, I want to say we contacted about 20 lawyers and none of them wanted to touch us, wanted to actually, represent us for that inquiry. And eventually by one of the ladies who runs the group managed to get a lawyer very last minute. So technically we had 3 days to get into that inquiry because there was no advertisement and we didn't know it existed. In regards to the mainstream media, like I said, I arrived there. We arrived there early. Me, a woman called Ruth, and Alex, who had his leg amputated from the AstraZeneca vaccine, proven by the government and proven by the doctors, first living man to receive the £120,000 compensation scheme in the UK, the whole of the UK. Now that in itself should have been mainstream, it should have been front page paper, back in 2021. I approached the media and I said to them, "Are you covering this topic today?" They were like, "Yes." I worked for the BBC. I handed them a flyer. They were very uncomfortable when I told them who I was there representing today that day. And then what happened is they took the flyer and they put it in their pocket. Now we sat there. Alex came down, and then what you see as you see the lawyer coming out with all the COVID victims and the bereaved and the care home. And you can see the cameras are all over. Now at that point, they're away to do interviews, and I'm like, hold on, do you not want to film us? Do you want to take pictures of us? And the cameras all went away. So I let them do some more interviews. At that point, I've grabbed the phone, and as you can see there, I went to the BBC, told them who Alex was. Everybody looking at me will think I'm fine. I've spent 40 grand to get my life back, David. But Alex you can't dismiss that, man. And we've got over 200 people in our group, and the reason nobody knows about our group, in my honest opinion, we'd have a lot more if the mainstream media would touch this, because we're having to advertise this ourselves with no funding, and it's very hard to speak about this subject, as you know, David, because we're shut down on every platform. So, like I said, we approached them, and you see in the video, they weren't interested. That's when Alex said, "You should be ashamed of yourself." He's went away, and I've went up to the BBC, and it speaks for itself. They were willing to video everybody else. We're willing to speak to the bereaved, the COVID care homes, which they people deserve to be heard. But so did the vaccine injured, and we only had 3 seats. So for the next one, we'll be hopefully applying for a lot more seats and bringing the noise. I like to say, make some more noise about this.
Yes. So the inquiry is headed by Lord Brailsford, and the quote from him, which I think he said he read out at the initial meeting, and which kind of defines what the inquiry is trying to achieve. He said, "I will conduct a robust investigation without fear or favour that will arrive at the facts, identify any lessons that need to be learned, and make recommendations for Scottish ministers." So, without fear or favour, is the inquiry looking at vaccine injury without fear or favour?
In my opinion, no. They spoke about, at the inquiry, they mainly spoke about the COVID bereaved, and they spoke about the care home bereaved. There's 37 groups that are in that inquiry. There was no mention of the vaccine injured. Now, where we were sitting, David, was at the very front. We were at the very front of that inquiry. They couldn't ignore us. We had the media behind us. We were the first group there that the media would see. And, the quote that you've just said there, he wants to do a very robust inquiry with no fear. Well, the question is, if there's no fear, as the vaccine injured group who are participating in this, we are not allowed to speak about our vaccine injury. So how is this man going to get to the bottom of it if the vaccine injured cannot speak about their vaccine injury, unless there is something that maybe that I've missed, but that's what we've been told as so far.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the justification for this is because to avoid conflict with the inquiry in London. But the inquiry in London speaking to politicians, and this one will eventually do so as well. So there doesn't seem to be the same concern about the overlap there, just when it comes to vaccine injury. Have you seen any sort of political involvement with any politicians at the initial meeting? What sort of response or
there was nothing,
support
David,
you had from the Scottish government?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You filmed me a few months ago, back in April, I believe. I went to the Parliament building, asking them for help, gave them flyers, and what did they do? Instead of saying, right, we acknowledge that you exist, we acknowledge that you're there, and we're willing to try and speak to you. They spent millions of funding on to advertise for this thing, push it out, give it to the people. But as soon as it went wrong, they didn't care. And instead of saying we acknowledge you're there, John, in the vaccine injured group, what did they do? They gave me a 6-month ban. They sent me an email to say you've got a 6-month ban. Now, when I had went into that with that video, sorry,
John, you're banned from the Parliament.
I'm banned from the Parliament building for standing up and protesting. But I wasn't protesting. I was there to ask them for help because they're still not acknowledging us, David. As simple as that.
Well, that's all very worrying, John. Look, I hope you'll be able to join us for a longer examination of all of this soon, and that the listening project actually lives up to its name, and someone hears the story. Someone from the official inquiry is prepared to hear the stories, the evidence that's coming from the Scottish Vaccine Injury Group. And we'll just close on your contact details here. So this next slide has the URL for your group if anyone wishes to get in touch. And John, would you like to say anything in closing about the work that you're doing within the within the group?
Yeah, just like I say, if there's anybody out there in Scotland and you've taken that thing, we can't blame everything, David, but we can sure as hell question it. For anyone else just wondering what else I'll be doing, I've started up a podcast in the near future. I'm doing very in-depth interviews with people that have, been injured, lost loved ones. And I done one the other day with a woman that works in a funeral parlour for 10 years. And my God, the stories I've heard, the deaths, the baby deaths, it's absolutely shocking. So that's something that I'll be doing in the future, David. And I'm pretty sure you'll be on it as well, mate.
Well, I certainly hope so. John, maybe you can join us for extra time. I do hope so. Until then and until later, thank you very much.
Thank you, David, and thank you very much to John as well. So, Mark.